Today is Ash Wednesday in the life of the church. And like many things in the church, it seems a little unusual, especially if you aren't regularly connecting with a faith community. See, normally on this day, you see people walking around with black sooty cross shapes on their foreheads. And even though it's in the name, today isn't really about Ash. Today is actually about Easter, which I know is still a month and a half away. See, the world is broken. Look at how people talk to each other and treat each other. Consider the violence and the war that has ravaged human history. Abuse and hatred and greed exist all over the world. Because of this sin and brokenness, every living thing eventually dies. It's what happens with brokenness. So God looked at the world and was deeply grieved by the sin and the pain and the destruction that we have done against Him, against each other, and even against God's creation itself, God's gift to us. And so, Jesus came into the world, and throughout His life, He taught what it means to love our neighbors. And He showed us what our lives would look like if we followed God's ways, for how He intended that we should live in the world. In Jesus, there was no hatred, no sin, destruction, or brokenness. But He allowed Himself to die, something that wasn't required. In fact, His death broke the cycle. And because He didn't need to die, He picked His life back up again. He was resurrected, and we celebrate that on Easter or Resurrection Sunday. And throughout the history of Christian people, we have dedicated ourselves to Jesus' teaching. And many times people would become part of the church, and often they would make that commitment to the church on Easter Sunday. In preparation for that commitment, they would pray and they would study and they would examine their lives for where there was sin and where there was brokenness. Actually, it wasn't just those who were preparing to join the church. Every follower of Jesus was encouraged to examine their lives during the 40 days, minus the Sundays, before Easter. And this year, that is today, February 17th, 2021, Ash Wednesday. The ashes we use on Ash Wednesday are symbolic of our temporary place in the world, of our frailty as humans. There's even a line in the funeral service about ashes to ashes and dust to dust. From the dust of the earth we came, and eventually to the dust of the earth we will return. Today, we are reminded that we are not perfect. We are part of the brokenness of the world. We do not always follow where God is leading. We do not always love our neighbors. There are times that hatred or greed or brokenness seeps into our hearts and leaks out of our lives. Because of this, we sometimes place ashes on the outside of our body, because we are not perfected on the inside of our hearts, our minds, and our spirits. This isn't an action we take because we want to wallow in self-pity, because we are constantly looking instead toward the already realized hope of Easter. It also isn't a way to express that we are more self-aware than someone else. It is merely a reminder of who we are in reality. In fact, it is the opposite of a badge of honor. My mother would be appalled if I had gone to school or to church with a dirty, smudgy face. It's horrifying to return home and realize that you've had a little bit of breakfast stuck to your face most of the day. In the same way, taking on the ashes is an act of humility. I really am that broken. I really do have dirt in my life. And I don't have to lie to myself or to the world about it. Today isn't really about ash. It's about the life I have behind it. Now, because of COVID-19, we aren't gathering at the church building to place ash on our bodies. But that doesn't mean that I have less in my life to examine. It doesn't mean that there isn't sin and brokenness in my heart. The ash doesn't change the reality. It is merely a sign of it. It reminds me of Psalm 130. The psalmist writes, "Out of the depths I cry to you, Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for mercy. If you, Lord, kept a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, so that we can with reverence serve you. I wait for the Lord. My whole being waits. And in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord more than the watchmen wait for the morning. More than the watchmen wait for the morning." Israel, put your hope in the Lord, for with the Lord is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. He himself will redeem Israel from all their sins. Today, I invite you on a journey of the next 40 days of examining your life for where there's brokenness and pain and sin. And I invite you to consider the forgiveness and the resurrection that is present through the love of God expressed in Easter. If placing ash on your head will help you remember and help that reality sink in a little more, then please know that anyone can do it. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a priest. You don't even have to be a Sunday school teacher to place ash. It is most important that we do this as a sign of brokenness and hope. For we are God's people, broken yet redeemed, sinful yet restored.
Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of a Savior, the hope of nations. Savior, he can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Take me as you find me, all my fears and failures, and fuel my life again. I give my life to follow everything I believe in. Now I surrender, I surrender. Savior, save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see, singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see, singing for the glory of the risen King. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see, singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see, singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and